All right, Ulysses, it's a Wednesday, which means it's time for our weekly mailbag episode.
Yes, and we have a voice memo from a listener that's talking to us for the first time. So I'm very excited about this. I think you all should too. Let's get started.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we're the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your very first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. All right, Ulysses, let's get right into these mailbag questions. We have 3 of them, and this first one is a voice memo.
It is, but before we do, I really want to say thank you to everybody who's joined the community of Locked On Rays on YouTube. It is very, very cool. We have 466-ish subscribers. So can we make it? I know this might be lofty, Kevin, but can we make it to 500? A playoff push. The Rays are doing a playoff push. Last homestand ticket discount thing. Can we do a playoff push to 500 subscribers on YouTube? Can we make it happen?
That would be nice. We might need some help from the Locked On Podcast Network. Just maybe some more retweets and shares on Facebook and Instagram. That'll push us over the hump.
That would be nice. Okay. Anyway, let's start with the first voice memo. It's from Rhodes Conover. Let's hear the thoughts.
Hey, Kevin and Ulysses. I grew up in Florida, but actually as a Cubs fan, which was due to my access to WGN games on TV, not Rays games. However, given the Cubs' deeply insulting rebuild they started a little bit ago, I've mostly moved on from that organization and have focused on the Rays. One thing that jumps out to me is this massive Rays contract, at least by Rays standards, that they gave to Wander Franco that demolishes their previous record. Perhaps I'm being influenced by being a fan of a big market team for such a long time, but it seems very odd to me they would drop $186 million on a single player, regardless of that player's talent level. They weren't willing to spend some money in the offseason to support him. And with Tyler Glass now under contract for next season and likely to return, it seems like the Rays should be all in on a World Series title in 2023. Can we expect the Rays to make aggressive moves this offseason that might cost a little more money than we're used to, either via trade or free agency, or do we expect them to continue to operate like business as usual? Thanks.
Great question there from Rhodes. And may I also add this? He's got a really good broadcasting voice as well if he ever wants to venture into that marketplace. I could listen to his voice more than just 30, 45, 60 seconds, whatever it may be. So shout out to Rhodes there. His question, what do you think, Ulysses?
Well, Rhodes, thank you so much for writing to us, or actually, writing to us with a voice memo. That's pretty cool. So hopefully, hey, you're the second one on this new template that we've created. So that's pretty cool. Make the podium. So be sure to send in your voice memos, guys. Rhodes, I gotta say, this has been a very slow, gradual buildup of spending money, and it all started with Charlie Morton. Those 2-year $15 million per plus the option for $15 million that ultimately was not picked for 2021. That was a break in the routine for the Rays. That was the first one. And we've seen it little by little. We heard about the Kimbrel finishing second sweepstakes, which now seems like, hey, thank the Lord that they actually ended up being second on those sweepstakes. Freddie Freeman this offseason, he apparently was also got in the podium for the Rays in second place. He ended up going to the Dodgers, maybe third if obviously the Braves offer was still there.
Weren't the Rays kicking around Marcell Ozuna at one point?
Yes, they were. Marcell Ozuna was also a Rays target, and apparently very close to being attached to him. So Rhodes, they have. It's the problem is that they haven't actually inked them, and to your point, that's what counts in the end, right? If they actually play for you now, be like, well, we were second in the Freddie Freeman. Like, who gives a crap about being second? Like, it doesn't matter. Are you having that guy in your lineup or not? But I do think that the Rays are going to be a little bit more active spending money, and I said this with the Wander Franco signing. This is a move into that way of they're not really windows of opportunity are not forever. And for Rays fans that are optimistic and they're like, oh, we're never going to lose, then you haven't seen enough baseball in your lifetime, and you should probably watch more and not talk as much, because windows of opportunity are not endless. Yeah. They're endless if you have a $300 million budget payroll and you can get anybody that you want and you don't have attendance problems and you don't have a stadium issue hanging over your head. Yeah, then you can do whatever you want anytime at all. But the Rays are not that team, so they have to operate within certain boundaries. And this is a window of opportunity that they cannot let go of. And that's why you're seeing $25 million being spent on a Tyler Glass now. That's why you're seeing Wander Franco being given this amount of money.
And I think the Wander contract is, of course, an outlier from the standpoint of it speaks to his talent level and being what we think and what pretty much the baseball industry thinks is an amazing talent, and that money will go well spent. And I don't know if the Rays will ever go quote unquote all in, but it's not like they haven't. It's not like they gave Wander that contract and didn't spend any money at all after that. In fact, we've seen some interesting deals and maneuvers from them from the standpoint of how much did they give Brooks Raley? They extended Manny Margot. They added Corey Kluber. They didn't trade Kevin Kiermaier in the offseason. They acquired David Peralta midseason. That's a couple $1 million right there. They forked up for G-Man Choi and Ryan Yarbrough in arbitration. They brought back or were willing to give Mike Zunino $7 million. So I know it's not that, okay, you gave Wander $185, $200 million, whatever the total winds up being, and then giving that next guy number 2 in the free agency for offseason wish list, a 4-year, $60 million. I don't know if we'll ever see that anytime soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if, depending on how much money comes off the books and how they work things around, if, we've talked about a middle of the order bat, bring back David Peralta or give Michael Brantley a Charlie Morton-esque deal of 2 years, $30 million. I think that's something that could be within reach for sure.
And let's not forget that the middle of the order bat is signed to a very, very team-friendly deal in Brendan Lau. So you have pieces around him. It's a young team road. So a lot of that is like pre-arb. So you don't need to sign Randy Arozarena when you have him for under contract. You don't need to sign Isaac Paredes if you don't have to. So Brendan Lau's already under contract. So you've got pieces. So if you're looking for that big boom of Freddie Freeman, okay, they got second or third or whatever it was during that signing. Like, I understand that, but they do have pieces around them, even if they're not free agent booms. Yeah. I don't think, like you, I don't think the Rays are ever going to go, all in on a single year, because it's as many years as possible being available to go to the playoffs. That's what they see as successful, and I have to agree with that. With that mindset, I'd rather be always a competitive team and never win the World Series than be the Marlins. Like, I mean, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, no, Rhodes, they've got, hopefully this offseason there's a free agent that could really make a splash. Again, I love that you love the Michael Brantley, Kevin. I would just love that addition to the lineup. If it isn't David Peralta and Michael Brantley, I mean, I think that would just be wonders to that offense.
Mm-hmm. Again, great question by Rhodes there, and we've got a couple other great mailbag questions. But Ulysses, we have to give Rays fans out there and Locked On Rays listeners a very important message now.
Yes, we do. And you know what? Just like it takes confidence to sign free agents, it takes confidence to do certain things in life. So when you're in the bedroom and you're not really feeling that comfortable, maybe Blue Chew is what you need, because Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as a Viagra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready for whatever opportunity arises. The process is simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. It's pretty simple. It's kind of like, you know, calling up somebody from AAA and have them rake. That can be Blue Chew for you. And the best thing about this, it's done online, guys. So there's no awkward visits to the doctor's office, no conversations like that, and there's no waiting line at the pharmacy. So today, if you think that you could benefit from a little bit extra confidence, a little bit extra boost when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. All right. So you've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code Locked On at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code Locked On to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
All right, this next mailbag question from Cody Glazer. He says, hey, Locked On pals, the first two mailbag questions of mine had a negative flair to them, but now I am fully on team good vibes only the rest of the way. Keeping with that positive vibe, which Ray or Rays are you most proud of this year? Could be because of their overall performance, fighting through injuries, adversity, being a recent dad, and so on. Raise up and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, Cody, for again reaching out. And you know, it's a 162 game season. We all have times where we can be down and we can be up and exhilarated and depressed. Like it's okay, Cody. That this is the whole thing about being a fan, right? So good to hear from you again. Now with the good vibes, I love this. You know, we're in September, we're in the in playoff hunt, so we should be happy as Rays fans more than sad boys. Who am I? You know what? For those that remember, we did an episode titled Meet Harold Ramirez. Okay, this is before the season started, obviously, when they acquired him. And I don't know if you remember, Kevin, but I was elated about it. I saw the potential and I wanted to see it coming through fruition. But in my wildest expectations, I mean, he has just exceeded those by a mile. Let's look at his numbers throughout the season. 306 batting average, a 350 on base, 414 slug. That's a 764 OPS. Okay. That for Esteban Quiroz. That's who they traded. Esteban Quiroz. Okay. Does anybody miss him? All right. That's the point. 6 home runs, 54 RBIs. He is hustling always. Just the type of player that you want to just make clones of. Sprint speed at the 73rd percentile. The K rate, he doesn't strike out at all. 83rd percentile for the K rate. So I know September has not been kind. So for those that might not be Harold fans, they're going to be like, well, he's been awful lately. I get it. 8 for his last 56. Okay. But are we really going to focus on the last 56 at-bats and not the prior 5 months? I think then you're being a little bit disingenuous, Harold hater. So that's my point. He has exceeded expectations no matter what. September has been unkind to him. He has performed way above what anybody had planned for him. So that's my answer, Cody. It is Harold Ramirez.
All right. Since you took Harold Ramirez, I'll provide a little bit of a podium for this question. No particular order of this podium, but 3 names nonetheless. Francisco Mejía for stepping up and showing out in place of Mike Zunino and proving himself to be a everyday or 1A catcher. Christian Bethancourt for making it to the majors for the first time since, I believe, 2017 after playing overseas, playing independent ball. He was a high-profile prospect and had to learn a lot of things about the game and about himself. And he seems to really, not only is he doing pretty much everything for the Rays besides catching and playing the infield and hitting and pitching, and he's really a solid ball player that the Rays, I think, might have struck a little bit of gold in that trade with the Athletics. But I think he provides a lot of perspective that the younger players can utilize and digest. So that's another guy. Again, these aren't necessarily superstars or guys you would think about traditionally. Third, I'm going to give a shout out to Yucky Yarbs, Ryan Yarbrough, for
Wait, it's Yummy Yarbs now. It's Yummy Yarbs now.
Yummy Yarbs. That's right. So I give him credit for battling through adversity, handling multiple trips to AAA Durham after his crummy year last year. A lot of guys would struggle with that, but he's really stepped up in multiple ways for the Rays, and also pitching when he's not been scheduled to pitch. So I like what Yarbrough's done so far this season. And don't look now, but he's 5th in innings pitched this year for the Rays. I don't know if he'll get to 100. He's at like 79 right now, but that just shows you the stability. And when there's a guy that you need, he's not the flashiest guy by any means, but when you need a guy that can eat up some innings and provide a little bit of stability, Ryan Yarbrough's there. So just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, 100%. When Yarbrough is on and when he's utilized, when he's put in a position to succeed, he will do the job, and you will get what you want, what you need from him. And I know a lot of people want different things when Ryan Yarbrough is pitching, but you will get what you need. And if you're a Rolling Stones fan, well, then that's your reference for today. That I'm with you, man. 79 innings. That's pretty impressive, because the guy was not only injured in the beginning of the season, but then spent a chunk of time in AAA, and he's still putting 80 innings. That's remarkable. I mean, when we talked about his future and what it could be in 2023, will he come back or not? I mean, how many guys can you pencil in for 100 innings in the last 5 years for the Rays?
Yeah, not many at all.
Not many.
So yeah, he very well might have pitched his way onto the playoff roster, and very well might have pitched his way onto the 2023 roster as well for the Rays. All right, this last mailbag question we'll get to from Caleb. He says, how do you see the Rays catching situation looking in 2023? Should the Rays bring back Zenino? He said he wants to come back. If so, where does that leave Mejía, Bethancourt, and Renee Pinto?
I must have missed that interview where he said he wanted to come back. Did you catch that?
I don't recall per se, but if Caleb says it, maybe he found it somewhere. I mean, I would imagine that maybe he said it flippantly or offhand to Topkin of, hey, it sucks that I've got to deal with this injury, but looking forward to hopefully coming back and returning with the Rays. I would imagine that based on his family structure and being a Florida boy, that he would want to come back with the Rays.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems to have a home here and a comfortable spot here. I don't know why he would leave elsewhere unless the money was so significant, and I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Right. So that's the thing. Let's talk catching right now. Renee Pinto is not part of the catching core. He's actually more like depth. So that's a scratch off the name. But you got guys
Ronaldo Hernandez. Is he Ronaldo Hernandez territory?
That's
Michael Perez territory.
Renee Pinto, that's a conversation for another episode. I think I would go into a tangent with Renee. But I do like what he's done with the glove, by the way. The bat maybe could develop, but you would need a lot of sample size to see if it develops. And I don't know if the Rays are willing to do that. Anyway, so I'm not talking about Renee Pinto anymore. Now I'm focusing on the other guys. We have spent a lot of time this week on Monday's episode and on today's episode talking about Mejía and Bethancourt. They have worked out beautifully. Now, could the Rays get cute and carry 3 catchers next year if the price is right for Zenino? Say Zenino is like, look, I don't want to go anywhere. They're giving me $5 million for a year in Colorado. They're giving me $6 million in Milwaukee. But if you guys give me 2.5, I'm in Tampa Bay. I want to stay. The Rays could get cute and get 3 catchers, and here's why. Bethancourt is kind of a versatile guy.
Yes.
He's played some corner outfield, maybe not with the Rays. He plays some first base. You could DH him if you needed to. You could also DH a guy like Mike Zunino, depending on the matchup, because you want him to have fresh legs. And if it's a lefty and you want him to mash, boom, there's Zunino. So you could get cute if the price is right and carry 3 catchers, because Christian Bethancourt kind of acts like a little bit of a rover. And Mejía does too, because Mejía has played first base as well. So depending on how much Zunino is out there in the free agent market and what he is, the kind of offers that he's getting. But if what Caleb is saying is right, that he said that he would want to come back, which I would think, because of all of the reasons that we've said ad nauseum about Zenino being a good fit for the Rays, I wouldn't put it past the Rays to carry 3 catchers, but it would be on the unlikely spectrum rather than the likely spectrum.
Yeah, and the issue you have with that is, as much as I like Christian Bethancourt, the idea is that you could replace Christian Bethancourt's spot with a more productive bat. You could find a more productive bat out there. Not necessarily a guy that can play catcher and play other positions, but if they're confident that, hey, Mike Zunino is going to stay healthy, Francisco Mejía is going to stay healthy, and we sign some AAA depth like Joe Hudson or something like that, or Kevin Smith, you know, they do that year in and year out, then so be it. But my question is, what would you rather have in 2023 today? Would you rather have the tandem of Mejía and Bethancourt or Mejía and Zenino?
We haven't seen a drop-off, and I know this might be a bomb. We haven't seen a drop-off in pitcher effectiveness with Mejía and Bethancourt behind the plate. On the contrary, they've gotten us here. I think in the broadcast on Sunday, they said something in the last 18 games at the Trop, the Rays have won 15 of them, and the starter ERA is sub 2, and the bullpen ERA is sub 2. So they're basically getting 3 runs a game. 3 runs a game. Okay. If we're going to give props to Zenino for the job he did in 19, 20, and 21 behind the dish and all the accolades that the pitchers did, then let's do it also for Mejía and Bethancourt. So has there been a drop-off? I don't particularly think so. And can we also say that the catching offense has not been horrible like in years past? Again, I focus on overall value. Mike Zunino is a better defensive catcher than Francisco Mejía and Christian Bethancourt. There is no argument against that. But I don't care about what one player can do on one side of the ball. I care about, say it from the back, people. If you are a Locked On Rays OG listener, 2 words: overall value. That's what matters. Yeah. At the end of the day.
And let's not forget about Bethancourt's ability to throw the ball to second and nab out base stealers, or throw the ball to first or third, whatever it may be. And you combine the offensive production of Bethancourt and Mejía, there's not a lot of catchers that are putting up the types of numbers that they're putting up.
No.
Either individually or combined. In fact, I would have to look this up, of course, but just taking in the numbers of what these guys have put together, it has to be top 10 in the league of catcher production. Right?
I can only tell you, like, because of the notes that I have, in the last 15 games, Bethancourt has an 804 OPS. In the last 30 games, Mejía has a 746 OPS.
Yeah.
286 batting average for Bethancourt, 284 for Mejía. I know I already said to not look at only one stat, so I'm giving you two stats, people, because those are the notes I took. There you go.
And depending on what the asking price is for Zenino, maybe the Rays can avoid that and use that money elsewhere. And the other question, too, is I think Blake Hunt will have to be added to the 40 man. So does that mean Renee Pinto is on the chopping block and he's traded to a team that is kind of ready for that catcher to make the transition from AAA to the big leagues? So that's there's going to be some maneuvering there for sure. Best guess, though, 2023, who are your Rays catchers?
I think you roll with these guys, Mejía and Bethancourt.
I agree.
Because, again, what can you really put your hand on the fire that Zunino is going to be healthy next year? And if you're a Locked On Rays listener that thinks so, please write in the comments on YouTube and help us out there with some comments. I don't think so, Kevin.
And what concerns me, too, about the injury that he's dealing with, I mean, how that affects him for the future, but he was already struggling majorly offensively this year. Now, some of that probably was because of the injury, but also imagine how much time he'll go without seeing big league pitching. It's going to be a major adjustment from not playing ball and not playing high level ball to having to step in right away. That concerns me.
100%. And if he doesn't come, but I think he would want to come back just because remember in 2019 that it came out that he actually did less work in the cage. And that's why his numbers were really pretty awful offensively in 2019, because he spent half of the time that he needed to be on the cage with the pitchers in order to create a rapport and create to get to know them, to catch them, to see all the different things that they had to do, which was awesome for his defensive side, but it was a detriment to his offensive side. So if he goes to another team, this is the kind of guy that he is. So does he want to do that and risk a more offensive down year than if he were to stay in Tampa Bay? And work with pitchers that he already knows, so he doesn't have to sacrifice that side of the ball. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be interesting, and I don't think it's a black and white issue here. I think there are pros and cons. But if I had to just choose right now, I would go with Mejía and Bethancourt right now.
Yeah, and also Mike Zunino. I mean, by the time next season starts, he's going to be 32 years old. He's been playing the bigs for 10 years, basically. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body, not to mention all the games he played in college at Florida as well. All right, great questions there from our listeners out there. Thank you again for making the Locked On Rays podcast your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you on Thursday.